Hey everyone, how's it going? God Gamer here. Today I'm going to be watching WJLFF. So this is a Chinese runner who's done the craziest Pantheon 5 hitless run yet. This is Old Nail White Spells hitless. If you've seen my Pantheon 5 all bindings hitless video, in that video I said that was the craziest P5 run done yet, and this run just completely one-ups that run. And let me just pull up a comparison so you can understand why. So all bindings has 13 nail damage. Old Nail has an unupgraded nail, so you're still using the nail that you have from King's Pass. All bindings does have the charm limitation, and it limits the amount of soul you can have, which is a big deal. But Old Nail White Spells, you do not have any upgraded spells. You can use Shaman Stone, and you always would because you are relying on spells for damage as opposed to your nail, but the damage values are just so nerfed compared to Shade Soul, Descending Dark, and Abyss Shriek. Dive theoretically deals 53 damage because it has two hitboxes, one from the dive itself and another from the shockwave afterward, but most of the time you're using dive for iframes, so you're generally not going to be getting the actual dive damage. So a lot of the time, dive is only going to be dealing 30 damage from the shockwave, and wraiths, if you get all 3 hits, deals 60 damage. However, you're not always going to get all 3 hits from wraiths, so it deals 20 damage per hit. So the spells are actually pretty balanced. Wraiths is kind of like a high risk, high reward option. Vengeful Spirit casts really quickly, but it can get double hits, and dive deals a middling amount of damage, but it gives iframes. So the setup he uses for charms is Mark of Pride for additional range because it's a hitless run. He uses Shaman Stone, Soul Catcher, Soul Eater, and Spell Twister. It's just a spell build to get as much soul as possible. And it makes sense because there are going to be fights with ads where you need to burn them down with spells really quickly. And there's also going to be fights where you need to dive a lot, and being able to quickly gather that soul just makes it so much more safe. But yeah, let's just get into watching this real quick. Hopefully I've explained why this is such an insane run. Unfortunately, there's no music because on Chinese sites, it's really common to just like play pop music and stuff over top of your Hollow Knight videos, but I'm just gonna put some music on in the background. You can already see that this player makes use of all 3 spells, and that's because, like I said, they are really balanced. There's always going to be situations where using a specific spell is optimal and the others aren't. And you're going to notice that these early fights are just extremely optimized because being able to do those fights faster means you get more attempts later into the run. So there's really a focus on dealing damage really quickly, just kind of like in a speed run almost. But he does make sure that he's safe while he's doing it. And Howling Wraiths is something you're going to see only on some bosses. It is really, really good damage compared to everything else, but if the boss gets knocked back or if it moves into you while you're casting, then you're just gonna lose the run. And like, yeah, this is an hour-long run, so do you want to be taking that risk when it's not like a guarantee that you won't get hit? It's just really pretty crazy to see that this run got so optimized to the point that it's at, though. I have watched a little bit of this run, but this is mostly just my first reaction to what's going on. And it's nice to see that even though his nail is so nerfed, he's still making use of nail arts. They're nice for a couple reasons, because the range does make it feel a lot safer to use them. And you can also often follow up with an extra attack right after you use the nail art. So if you don't have Quick Slash, they're a really good alternative option. And this is a boss where you're going to see Vengeful Spirit double hits. You can see each time he casts Vengeful Spirit, the boss is getting hit twice. And that means it's going to be taking 40 damage as opposed to 20. Normally, if you had Quick Slash, you just spam it on the boss and the boss would just die. And Cyclone Slash is another really interesting option because just because of the fact that he has Soul Eater and Soul Catcher. So Cyclone Slash just gives you like unlimited soul if you get enough hits with it. And bosses like Hornet that are susceptible to getting knocked back, you're going to see a lot of Vengeful Spirit use, because Vengeful Spirit will double hit these bosses. And he just gets so much soul. That is the... oh, that was a little bit scary right there. But just, you can get a lot of hits on Hornet, and that just means you can cast so many spells at the boss. But, spoilers, this is a 1 hour and 3 minute run. And just doing a hitless run that takes that much time is just really, really crazy. Because you can get hit at, like, literally any point in this run. And it's just, the run's over. Like, you're dead. And that's an hour of time. Like, obviously it's practice, but you don't want to lose an hour of your time like that. And even bosses like Gorb here are, like, kind of scary. Because he wants to kill the boss quickly. He doesn't want to spend, you know, 15 minutes killing Gorb. Right? So he wants to deal a lot of damage, but if you focus too much on damage and just make a little mistake, then you lose the run, and you have to take another 10 minutes to get back here. Well, 4 minutes, apparently, but, you know, that's still valuable time. So it's just really... the thing I like about this run so much is that it's really just optimal use of spells and making decisions about which spells to use in different situations and in response to different attacks. You don't see that as much with the Pantheon 5 All Bindings run because of the soul limitation. And in my opinion, one of the coolest things about Hollow Knight's combat is how you kind of weave spells in between your nail hits. And how you just, like, maximize your use of damage with spellcasts. That, to me, is, like, the funnest part of Hollow Knight combat, especially in speedruns. So the fact that this run focuses so much on that is just super cool. You'll probably see a lot of double hits in this fight. Maybe some occasional dives. But normally in a speedrun, you just coax the boss into teleporting into a corner where you're standing. Then you kind of walk toward the center of the arena and just trap the boss in the corner with Quick Slash. But this time, you have to rely a lot more on spellcasts and getting double hits with Vengeful Spirit. You can see he has to be really careful with the ads. And he sometimes wants to, like, create distance from the ads or get closer to them by just J-cloaking through the boss as it dashes. I think, like, a lot of beginner hitless players would try to, like, jump over the boss, but that kind of opens you up to, like, having an enemy spawn right next to you. So if you're confident in your mechanical skill to, like, react to that attack and dodge it, then it's probably the safer option. More consistent option. And this is kind of what I was talking about with Desolate Dive. Like, normally you'd get the hitbox from descending, because there's a hitbox that appears as you're falling down with dive, right? And that deals 20 damage, or 23 damage, I think. But if you're just diving, like, next to a boss, you're only hitting the boss with the shockwave, which is dealing 30 damage. And that's still a lot more damage than the nail, which deals 5. But it's not going to be dealing as much as Wraiths. Wraiths deals 60 damage if it hits 3 times. And as long as the boss is, like, inside the hitbox, it should hit 3 times most of the time. Like, you can see, that was a really fast boss fight. You know? Wraiths still deals really good damage, even at, like, the unupgraded level that it's at. But once you have 2 bosses like this, using Wraiths becomes a lot more risky, so he's probably not even gonna use the spell at all. He's gonna rely on Dive Shockwave and Vengeful Spirit. Like, when you're doing a hitless run like this, you just don't have the time to position yourself above the boss to go for a dive, right? Like, most of the time you're diving because you want to hit the boss while it's doing an attack. And having the iframes afterward just gives you more options to, like, continue getting a couple hits and gather more soul. Because soul management is actually super important in these runs. That's probably like a big reason why he's using Soul Eater, Spell Twister, Soul Catcher. A little bit scary there. Oh, oh god. That was a close one. But like, just being able to dive and then hit the boss a couple times, you're actually like pretty much going to be positive on soul most of the times. Even though you cast a spell, you're going up in soul because of all the soul generation charms that he has equipped. Xero is just a boss that's pretty easy. Like, the fact that he's so easy to double and triple hit with Vengeful Spirit. If you have Shaman Stone, the boss just ends up not being that hard. And to my knowledge, I think in the overworld, these Spirit Warriors will have like lower HP values based off of your nail upgrade, but in Godhome, they have a set HP value. I'm pretty sure that's the case. So having an old nail doesn't mean that the Spirit Warriors or Dream Warriors have less HP like they would in the overworld. They still just have just as much HP as before. And this is an easy boss. Any boss that you can consistently use Wraiths on is gonna melt pretty quickly still. That's one of the nice things, is that you can get through those like easy peasy bosses still with Wraiths if you make use of it enough. Oop. Just cast Vengeful Spirit by accident instead of another Wraiths, I think. That's, the boss doesn't have a hitbox when it's staggered, so that was not a cotton moment. You can actually just go inside the boss's hitbox when it's staggered like that. But yeah, it's just a pleasure to watch someone who's like optimized this run so much. And I actually noticed that the hitless tracker thing says 13 out of 42 runs, which to my knowledge that means 13 completed runs and 42 non-completed runs. But he has to have more attempts than that, right? If this guy actually did this in 42 attempts, then I'm relinquishing my title of God Gamer, and he can have it. It's all his. This fight is definitely a little bit scary. You really need to be cognizant of like where the Oblobbles are going to be when they do their next attack. You can see he's just kind of keeping them on one side as much as possible by casting Vengeful Spirit and knocking them back. It's going to be... Oh, it just did an attack while it was moving. That's not normal. It might have been bumped by the other one, so it just started moving during its attack. But once it starts getting to the next phase, then he's gonna need to be really careful about his positioning when it's about to start its attack. You can see that happened again. You don't really see that too much normally. Probably because you melt these bosses really quickly without old nail white spells. But the boss is in the middle right now. He's going to go to the left side just to give himself more space to actually dodge. Like, the further you are away, the more time you have to react. So the boss is going to the left, he moves to the right, so he has more space. But attacking the boss actually turns it toward you so that it flies toward you. So you have to be careful of that you don't go to one side and like attack the boss so that it turns around into you and just corners you. You have to be really careful about that. Really solid fight though. This is Sisters of Battle, so you might see like a bit of wraiths when the enemies are on the walls here. Otherwise, you're not gonna. I don't think we're gonna see any wraiths usage in the second phase, because wraiths just keeps you stunned for too long compared to Vengeful Spirit, and dive keeps you stunned for a long time, but it gives you iframes. So wraiths is, like I said, it's the high risk, high reward option. And when you have multiple enemies that also kind of like teleport around the arena, it's not the best option to go for. So the main strategy for this boss is to kind of just hit them once in the middle of the arena and then go to one side and use dive, because the enemies are going to finish their horizontal attacks on one of the sides and you just dive on top of them. And then the enemy that comes down from the ceiling is going to move into the dive shockwave, and you can also hit both of them often afterward to gather soul off of like 2 enemies at once. So every time after you dive, you have those iframes. You can just hit the enemies a couple times and replenish all the soul that you just used. Now, normally, if you don't have these spell charms, you have to be a bit more careful with your soul management. But the fact that he has Soul Catcher, Soul Eater, Spell Twister means that just has to hit them a couple times, doesn't have to be too aggressive, and he can still have enough soul to continue casting spells no matter what, pretty much. But it's just kind of cleaning up from this point. It's already past the hard part. And you can see he's even making use of wraiths now. At least when it's safe to do so, like against the aerial attacks like that. And I'm honestly surprised that he is using it, because to me that definitely seems a little bit scary, but he's got the experience to know that it's not. For him, anyway. Really, really impressive stuff. Alright, next up we have Marmu. Marmu is going to be kind of interesting because the damage output is so low. And I feel like it's a little bit scary to go for Vengeful Spirit against this boss. When it spawns, you can actually, like, it doesn't take knockback for a moment. So you can get a couple high damage spells out on the boss, but you're definitely not going to be seeing any wraiths at this point. Looks like he's mainly using dive. And like I've kind of talked about, it's just going to be the shockwave hitbox on the boss. So it's mainly just to like knock the enemy back and get some iframes. Seems like it would just be really scary to use Vengeful Spirit, because like if the boss doesn't get hit, then it's just gonna fly into you. But Flukemarm should die pretty quickly to wraiths. Okay, I didn't expect it to be that fast. It was interesting that he used Vengeful Spirit on one of the little flukes. Just like being really, really safe. Make sure that fluke doesn't end up screwing him over. And you can't really rely on, like, you can't rely on your nail to deal with ads. So like the collector is gonna be a lot of fun. Like obviously he'd have to farm ads for soul using his nail. But that fight is gonna be rough. This fight is pretty straightforward. You know, you can get double hits with Vengeful Spirit, you can go for a lot of dives. And this is a boss that staggers, so it's like anytime it staggers, you can get a dive off, and the dive is going to deal full damage if you aim it correctly. Oh, Galien. this is a scary boss. So you can get a bit of damage off at the start. You use Cyclone Slash just to get a little bit of soul. But, like, normally you just kind of melt this boss in speed runs. Even in casual runs, you have enough damage output that you can just kind of kill it really quickly. And if you take damage, it's like, it's not that big of a deal because you can just heal up. But in hitless runs, this boss can be really tricky. You can see he's just like, he goes in for a little bit and then he baits the big axe back to him, because the axe follows him and has like this acceleration component, but the other little saw blade that's flying around the room just does so randomly. So he's really trying to manipulate the axe to go outward. Then as it comes back to him, when he hits the boss, he just goes back out to lure it back the other direction. And now he's just kind of winging it at this point, which makes sense because there's so much on the screen. He has to use Shade Cloak for iframes sometimes, even. See, and like spots like that are so scary because the boss is so close that I would be afraid of it flying into me if I used Shriek, or Wraiths rather. But he just has the experience to know that the boss was almost dead, I think. Probably not going to see Wraiths at this point. Like, the thing about Wraiths in this fight is that Wraiths has such a small hitbox that when the boss jumps over your head, it's kind of risky to go for Wraiths, I think. And you're probably not going to get all the hits anyway. And the boss also does jump back and forth a lot horizontally. And when you stagger the boss, it also flies backwards. So lots of opportunities to get Vengeful Spirit double hits in this fight. And dive is a good option. Duh. Because iframes. But Vengeful Spirit, you can, you know, if you get a double hit, that's 40 damage. And it's a very low commitment spell because it casts so quickly. Looks like anytime Sheo uses the purple attack from the sky, he's using dive in response. And still, like, that was a pretty quick fight. So, just optimal use of spells. Just, you can still do pretty good damage with light spells if you use them, like, really skillfully. Which is pretty awesome to see. You know, like, I'm still sticking to my guns. Like, I still think this is a lot tougher than Pantheon 5 all bindings. Because even though you do have charms, Pantheon 5 all bindings has spells still, and they're level 2 spells, which is a huge, huge difference. Even though you have the soul limitation, you also have a nail that deals over 2.5 times the damage of what this player has right now. This guy does have Mark of Pride, which is nice. Ooh, that was scary. That spike almost got him. But yeah, I love to see the optimized use of spells in different situations. Like, having the option to use so many spells just really spices up the combat so much. And next up is Elder Who. This is gonna be fun. Like, normally this fight can take a while because of the pancake attack, where he just disappears and throws those pancakes down on each side like this. But because of the damage output of the player being so incredibly low, this is gonna take even longer. And Elder Who is not sparing him any pancakes. He's giving him all the pancakes. Dear God. So he is trying to get wraiths, but it's a little bit tricky to get all the hits with the spell. Just because of the way that Elder Who moves. And also Elder Who teleports a lot. This is kind of like the most annoying boss that you could make. You just need like Elder Who with Marmu physics. That's the only way it could be worse. And like spawning ads. I don't want to give modders any ideas, but... But yeah, pretty solid fight. Like, you can Shade Soul, or Shade Cloak pretty much any pattern that Elder Who throws at you, so it's not a super scary fight. But what is a super scary fight is the Collector. So I'm interested in this because soul management is going to be so important. You can see he's going for Cyclone Slashes to just try and get more soul. When the boss is staggered, he goes for Dream Nails because hitting the Collector doesn't give you soul. You have to hit the ads to get soul, and you need soul to kill the ads. Because you can't just sit there and nail slash the ads. You're never going to deal damage to the Collector. And when you hit the ads with spells, you really need to hit the Collector too, because spells are your main source of damage. You can't just hit the Collector with your nail and cast spells at the enemies and hope to kill the boss within 10 minutes, because it's not going to happen. Ooh, a little bit scary right there. But the boss eventually is going to start spawning more ads at once, and that's right now. And that's where this is going to start to get scary, because it does seem to take a spell cast along with 2 nail hits, and he still has to farm ads for soul. Like, he's not going to get any Dream Nails off at this point, so he is just trying to get a nice Wraiths off on the boss. And oh, that was really interesting. Like, he jumped above that Balder to cast Vengeful Spirit at it. Or to cast Vengeful Spirit past it without hitting it, so that he could farm the Balder for soul after it rolled at him. Really just cool stuff. Like, normally I would just be like, yeah, it's time to kill the Balder, but he wants the Balder to get closer to him so he can farm it. Because soul matters so much, like, in this fight. So you really just get interesting new strats in this kind of, like, when you give yourself these limitations, it's really fun to see what strats players come up with like that. Just to kind of like problem solve really tough fights. So God Tamer is a pretty easy fight. It's just kind of like pogo a few times, dive, rinse and repeat. You don't really have to worry about this infection spit attack too much because you're just on top of the boss most of the time. He's being careful not to get hit by God Tamer as the boss jumps. You can see he's creating like a lot of space so that doesn't happen, or he's diving to get iframes. Looks like he's just kind of baiting the boss into attacking and rolling to the right, so that because it travels less of a distance, the boss is vulnerable again much faster. And I guess it just makes things a bit more predictable. Oh, this fight could actually take a while, because normally the speedrun strat for this fight is to damage the boss with spells while it's in the balloon phase, which is kind of like the invulnerable phase. But it's not totally invulnerable, it's just invulnerable to nail damage, so you can still hit Grimm with spells. But that's way too risky for a hitless run, so like that's not happening. So he'll have to go through each balloon phase, and that's going to take a while. You can sneak in a Wraiths or a Shriek at the beginning of each balloon phase, because like the little red projectiles take a little bit to spawn. You can see he's really good at hitting the bats, like when they come out, because you can get soul from that the Grimm bat that's flying around. And getting soul in this run is just so important because of how reliant he is on spells. Making good use of dives in this fight. Usually just to get the shockwave damage, but he's also getting the dive damage in some cases as well, like when Grimm does that attack where he flies down into the ground. And of course, getting wraiths wherever he can. That attack, that seems like he's hitting with the dive hitbox. And I like that he uses Cyclone there, because Cyclone, if you get the full hits off with it, actually deals a good bit of damage. And you can just dive right afterward. Get some more of that shockwave damage. Watcher Knights, you know, as an any percent runner, hitless Watcher Knights is not too difficult in my opinion, but these Watcher Knights are a bit tougher on current patch because they have back rolls. It just makes them a bit more unpredictable. Back rolls were an attack that were removed from the game around like patch 1.2.2.1, and it was just a glitch. They weren't purposefully removed from the game. And they were only reintroduced like in patch 1.5 or something. So anyone who has the misfortune of playing on patch 1.5 has to deal with back rolls. It's just a really goofy attack because they just, the one on the left just back rolled right there, and it's not something you can really react to. The boss just kind of pieces out. Not a horribly big deal though for this fight. Like, this player's just gonna want to use a lot of dive and VS. VS is nice because of course you can hit both Watchers and you're just kind of damaging them evenly. And you can also Vengeful Spirit when the boss is rolling away from you and multi-hit the boss that way. That's more of like a speedrun strat, so it's not something you'll probably see a lot from this player. But you can see like when there's a Watcher off screen, he doesn't commit to using Shade Cloak, and that's just like good hitless play. Because if you use that resource and suddenly you need it as the other Watcher comes on screen, then you can just be putting yourself in a really scary situation. And there's the back roll. Back rolls are terrifying. Like, it's really funny to see Hollow Knight runners try patch 1.5 and they don't know that back rolls are going to happen. They're just like, what the hell? Because people who speedrun patch 1.2.2.1, they've never seen a back roll in their lives because the boss just doesn't do it. And you can practice that boss for like 50 hours, 100 hours or more, and just suddenly you go up on a newer patch and the boss is doing this weird ass roll. But yeah, it's Uumuu time. Uumuu can definitely be a little bit scary, mainly because of the Uumas. So we'll have to see how he kind of works with the Uumas. It can also be scary to like get tempted into hitting an Uumuu. Uumas are the jellies, by the way, like the smaller ones. It can be scary to go for a hit on an Uumuu and just Uumuu starts doing an attack at the same time. So he should be able to hit this one over. Oh, okay, he didn't go for it because Uumuu was just starting an attack. So just playing it patient. Oh, I think he meant to fall down off this top platform, but just didn't quite get the movement. So the Uumuu ended up missing because he was too high. But it's interesting that he just uses Vengeful Spirit to hit the Uumas. It's definitely a lot safer because if you get close to an Uumuu to blow it up and it blows up unexpectedly, you can get caught in the explosion. Not something you want to have happen, that's for sure. I like that he does a Wraiths right as when Nosk spawns. Because like when bosses are spawning like that, they're not going to be doing any attack. Doesn't go for every boss, of course, but there's a lot of times like at the start of a boss fight where you can squeeze in a spell for free. And I like that he's just using Shade Cloak to dodge those infection blobs. It's definitely tricky to squeeze in between them and like be confident doing so. Oh, I like that he just uses Vengeful Spirit, just to get the ads out of the way, because he doesn't want to have to dodge an ad and Winged Nosk's attack at the same time. So it's like if he thinks an attack is coming, he's just gonna make sure the ad's dead so he doesn't have to deal with both at once. It's really smart. And every time that attack comes, he's just diving, because it can be really tough to react to that attack. I don't know why I said it can be. It always is really tough to react to that attack. Okay, now we have Sly. So this is a fight that speedrunners typically damage tank a lot in, because damage tanking just allows you to finish the fight so much faster. But the hitboxes of Sly are definitely weird sometimes in this fight, like the damage hitboxes that Sly puts out, so you have to be really careful of that. Sometimes they're definitely a lot bigger than you would think they are. And looks like he's mainly just making use of Vengeful Spirit. Oh, I like that you might be getting that dive hitbox off on Sly, so that might be able to deal the full 35 damage. That Gray Slash is kind of scary, by the way, so you really have to be careful around that. But oh, just like if you stagger a boss like that and you cast a spell on it, like Vengeful Spirit, before it hits the ground, the boss will actually not get unstaggered until you hit it after it's on the ground. So you can get a free spell cast off if you stagger a boss in the air like that. So that was really smart heads up play to just get that free extra spell cast out. And I like that he's making use of nail arts just to get that extra range. You don't want to, I don't think you want to get too close to Sly. And the extra damage from the nail arts is also nice because you don't have quick slash, so it's not like you're going to be able to punish the boss with multiple hits of the nail. So just get one nail art off and you're dealing a little bit of extra damage. And the nice thing about Vengeful Spirit in this phase is that you can actually double or even triple hit if you're lucky enough. As the boss is kind of like jumping away, you can just hit it multiple times. Hornet 2 can be a bit scary sometimes. The boss can sometimes dash at you really quickly, or sometimes use that like little area of effect attack. And sometimes it just comes out very, very fast. So you have to be really careful. And you can tell he's definitely playing a lot more cautiously than he was at the beginning. You know? You can 100% see that. One nice thing about those little traps is you can cast spells at them to kill them. So you can just Vengeful Spirit across the arena and take care of them. You're not always going to see that. It looks like he's relying a bit more on dive. There we go. It's a little bit scary in that situation to approach Hornet and try to kill the traps, so it's better to just do so from ranged. Really good to take advantage of that. Now we have Enraged Guardian. This fight isn't free, but it's... like in a speedrun, this fight is free because you have so much damage. A little bit scary there because if he Shade Cloaked to the left, he would have flew into a beam. So it looks like he's mostly just relying on dive, just so he doesn't have to... Ooh, scary. Yeah, this fight is a little bit frightening, honestly. But he's using Wraiths where he can, so that's a really good way to maximize his DPS. And now we have Lost Kin. This fight, the boss is definitely a lot faster, so it can move into you unexpectedly. but you can deal a lot of damage to it just because it's one of those bosses that takes knockback, so you can double hit it. And it's also pretty susceptible to dive as well. So, looks like we're mostly seeing dives in spots where he wants to be a little bit more careful, and he's mostly relying on Vengeful Spirit double hits. Just even casting it on the ads. I really like that he's really cautious with ads because, you know, it's a hitless run. So you don't want to mess around with ads. And he has so much soul generation that he can afford the soul to cast those spells. He doesn't have to take the chance of like going up to it and having the boss like jump into him right before he tries to kill one of the ads. Definitely a little bit scary in spots, like where he has to Shade Cloak through the boss when it dashes at him. But this player is really confident, so... So, yeah. So, NoWise is definitely a boss where we're going to be seeing mostly just Vengeful Spirit. The reason why you're not going to see Shriek or Wraiths, sorry, against this boss is because NoWise has a chance of teleporting whenever you hit the boss. So any multi-hit spells will have a chance of teleporting for each hit of the spell. Vengeful Spirit can multi-hit too, but mainly he's just using it because it's safe. It has good range, and yeah. It's really important not to lock yourself in like a long animation, like Wraiths in this fight. Like obviously if you're speedrunning, you can sometimes take the risk and go for like an Abyss Shriek on the boss, and there's a good chance it'll teleport away, but if you do get all the hits with Abyss Shriek, then that's a lot of damage, so sometimes you might go for that risk. In a hitless run, you're not going to see that. You don't want the boss to teleport and be locked in that animation. Surprised he went for that. That was kind of ballsy. You do have to get like really close to the thorns, but he's playing it pretty safe, so it makes sense. Normally you won't see players taking this little path from the bottom left to the bottom right platform, just to, be safe. But this guy's got the confidence. Like in an hour-long hitless run, it's really scary to just take options like that are even kind of risky, you know? And Traitor Lord is going to be a really easy fight because you can just iframe constantly. He should be able to get like 2 hits in between each dive, but he's just doing 1. And he gets so much soul per hit that it works out. This is kind of how I play Traitor Lord in like speedruns. It's not the fastest way to do it. You want to get shrieks off, but like it's really easy. And you know, Descending Dark deals a lot more damage than Desolate Dive. So that's a good strat for just making sure you avoid all the hits. So White Defender now. We're not gonna see the juggling strat, I think, because that's gonna take ages with 5 damage. But we might see some... Oh, he's just using Vengeful Spirit. Okay. You can use Shriek against the boss, but I think Wraiths just has too small of a hitbox while the boss is bouncing around to be viable. But yeah, whenever the boss comes out of the ground like that, you can get Wraiths. You can even get 2 Wraiths off if you are risky. I don't think it would be wise to go for that in a hitless run, so you can see he's just hitting the boss as it comes out of the ground, and then using wraiths as the boss is like falling back down, which makes a lot of sense. But yeah, no juggling is happening here. You can just like up slash the boss. That's what I'm talking about, is once the boss turns into a ball, you can just up slash it and dash, up slash dash, up slash dash. And the boss will never have the opportunity to go back into its regular form if you just keep it in the air, because it only stops that attack after it bounces on the ground, right? So... But yeah, nice double hits with the Vengeful Spirit. You can double hit while the boss is in ball form. And you can also kind of manipulate which direction it's going in. Ooh, scary. That was super close. Really good dash there. Reacting to White Defender when it's in that phase is not easy. And he's really low on soul. He has none, so that's also a little bit scary. But that attack is easy to farm soul on. That fight is tough in this run. That fight is definitely tough. Probably gonna farm soul. Nope. Okay. I figured he would want soul for this fight, but you know, maybe he's just in the zone and wants to like keep going. Definitely harder to get good spells off in this fight than in the Soulmaster fight. Soulmaster is just super easy to get wraiths on, rather. Oh. But whenever you stagger this boss, it's vulnerable to like another cast of wraiths. That's why the boss, like part of the why the boss can die so quickly in speedruns, is you just stagger it and then you punish it for staggering. Really nice punish there. Ooh, scary. But, I mean, that's scary for me. It's not scary for him. Oh, just using dive. He got a little bit scared there. Wanted to be safe. Like, that's a scary attack to punish, this one. I guess he wants to be, like, in the right positioning before, and just, like, be sure that he's gonna get the punish correctly. Okay, really smart to use Wraiths here, but that was a little bit scary with where Soul Tyrant spawned. Yep, just spam and dive, getting those, ooh, making use of the Shockwave hitbox. You don't want to cast Wraiths there. You definitely do not want to, because you'll take damage from those orbs. Now we got Markoth, everyone's favorite boss. So this boss is, luckily for him, it's pretty vulnerable to spells. And it's also pretty vulnerable to nail arts, which is how he's gonna get soul for those spells. And he's just trying to make sure he's out of range of the shield spin attack. He knew that when he cast Vengeful Spirit on the boss there, that it would knock Markoth back far enough that the shield spin wouldn't be able to get to him. So he's just knocking the boss to the other side of the arena so that he's safe. Really smart stuff. And you might try to make sure he has a lot of soul before he goes into the later phases. But this is like the best way to kill Markoth, is just be incredibly patient and punish the shield spin attack, because that's where the boss is most vulnerable. Ooh. Boss is pinning him a little bit. You can see the boss like at the beginning of the shield spin attack, and at the end there's just not much that the boss is doing, right? The shield is just like getting ready to spin, so you can hit the boss freely. And dash slash is a great way to do so. So it should be another shield. Yep. Oh, and just missing the Vengeful Spirits. But, like, he doesn't need soul to dive. So, he's just trying to find opportunities. Got a shield spin attack now. Oh, missed the VS. It's painful. Oh, the boss is kind of pinning him a little bit, so he has to retreat. Should be able to get a VS. Oh, no, the boss went too far down. Nice. Just snuck it under the platform. The thing when you're casting VS around platforms like these is the Vengeful Spirit can hit the platform and just disappear. Ooh, getting a little bit pinned again. Oh, oh shit. That was scary. Oh, man. Wow. He was like out here in the middle of the air and a sword spawned like right next to him. That was terrifying. Doesn't have any soul right now, so oh shit. Oh no. Wow. He knew the exact range of the shield spin. He was not leaving that corner. Holy crap. Okay. The boss was too far away from him to punish that. I don't even think he's going for... Oh, yeah, right after. Because it does take a second for the swords to start spawning. Scary spot. Okay. You know, like if the boss just flew into him in the corner there... Oh, man. That was a terrifying fight. You can tell, like, he knows the attacks so well. Like, he knew exactly how far that shield would spin. He knew he was safe in that corner if he just stood there. And now we've got another great boss. This boss also has a lot of adds, so he's going to need spells to take care of them. Got a Winged Zotling. So it looks like it does die to just one VS. And like the boss itself is pretty hard too, by the way. It's not just the ads he has to worry about. And it's really smart that he just hits those away, just so that like, because he knows he's gonna have to deal with those ads and the boss at the same time. Good VS. So if he can just kind of remove one of them from the equation, he's giving himself a bit more room to dodge the boss when it starts attacking again. Really smart stuff. Ooh, okay. So I guess if they die to one Vengeful Spirit, then they'll die to one hit of Wraiths. So that's pretty safe to do. Because Vengeful Spirit and Wraiths, one hit of Wraiths do the same amount of damage. 20 each. Can definitely be scary. Like normally you would try to like pogo and then dive just to get a little bit of soul before you dive, but that can be scary to do against this boss. He's just running away there because that formation of volatile Zotlings was scary. Yeah, what do we have next? Failed Champion NKG. Getting some good Shrieks Wraiths off at the beginning there. This can definitely be really scary because if you cast Wraiths and like a rock falls on you, what are you gonna do? You're dead. But like the boss fight will just last too long if you don't, you know, use Wraiths. Oh, and like two Cyclone Slashes gives you pretty much full soul. And see, the thing is, when the boss is doing that tantrum, it has that mace hitbox. At least I think that's the way it works. When it hits the mace toward you, the boss's hitbox extends outward, so you can actually get triple hits on the boss with Vengeful Spirit. At least you can with Shade Soul. It looks like he's getting triple hits still, because Shade Soul has a bigger hitbox, but it looks like it's possible with Vengeful Spirit as well. And yeah, that was a really solid fight. The thing about Failed Champion is it's a lot easier to down the boss on subsequent phases, because each time you go through another phase, it does that little tantrum attack in the center. That just gives you time to get those Vengeful Spirit multi-hits, or Shade Soul multi-hits in normal runs. Alright, now we got NKG. This is going to be terrifying. Looks like he's dealing with the boss pretty similar to how he dealt with Troupe Master Grimm, but he does use Howling Wraiths on that column pillars attack thing. But just punishing the uppercut with the Vengeful Spirit, and the cape attack with Nail Art, and then dive. So you're going to see Nail Art and dive. Oh, Nail Art hit and dive. So yeah, the nice thing about Dash Slash is you can get a Nail Slash off like immediately after. I think he didn't believe he had the range to do that there, or maybe not the time. This, like, you would have to be so nervous at this point, right? After like almost 55 minutes of doing this run. And how many runs have you had like get up to this point and fail? Failed Champion is definitely a really tough boss in this run. And I think just the gauntlet of NKG, Pure Vessel, and Absrat is really, really intimidating for any Pantheon run, any P5 run, even normal P5. That shit's scary. So we're gonna be at Pure Vessel pretty soon. This is just kind of rinse and repeat at this point. There we go. Oh, just making sure you get soul. May as well take the time. I imagine he's going to use a lot of dive against Pure Vessel, just for the iframes. So going in with a little bit of soul, so you have some in case you need to dive right away, is smart. Oh yes, right away. Looked like the boss almost parried the VS, but I guess he knows the timing to avoid that. See, using Wraiths there is scary, but he had the right spacing, because the boss falls down and its mask goes in front of it when it falls down like that, when it staggers, right? And the mask actually has a big hitbox, you know? So it can be scary to be next to the boss using Wraiths like that, because it has a high chance of staggering the boss. He's actually already in another phase. Boss is already getting the new attacks. But yeah, high chance of staggering the boss because of the multiple hits that Wraiths does. But yeah, he's just sailing through this fight. Ooh. Iframes are pretty good. Boss is in the last phase. You know that it's in the last phase when it does that black tentacle attack, void attack. You have to be really careful when you use dive like that, because using a second dive will cancel your iframes from the first. Ooh, that was a little bit scary. He was kind of close to that hitbox. There we go. Really solid fight, though. And we are going to Apsrad. I'm really curious to see this. I do expect a lot of Wraiths to be used, but you might try to take it a little bit safer and go for some VS. But Wraiths is like a lot more damage, so I kind of expect Wraiths to be used. And everything is so well practiced that, like, he's going to be confident in this fight. You can tell how much this person's practiced. Just immediately using dive to take out those spikes, not messing around with them for a moment. Probably going to do it again. Yeah, exactly. See, the thing is that the spikes normally disappear when you touch them, but if you touch them while you're invincible, the game doesn't know the difference, right? So he's just making sure to get rid of the spikes so that, you know, he has more movement options later in to the fight. But now he's just kind of playing around them, and now we're in the Sword Rain phase. And just, like, the boss still dies pretty quickly with Wraiths. Any boss that you can use Wraiths consistently against is still going to die fast. It's just going to be a bit scary. And the thing is that, like, Wraiths has a small hitbox compared to Shriek. So you really have to be careful about where you're positioned when you use it. Ooh, just relying completely on Shade Cloak there. Oh. Okay. That's a lot of damage. Very nice. And this is kind of one way to approach the fight, is don't chase the boss too much, because that's when you start to get hits. When, ooh, scary. Oh, shit. Wait. Let me go back. Look at this. Look at this. That is terrifying. The orbs, just... God, man. Looks like he thinks he's finished. Oh, next. Oh, not the next phase. I thought that would be the next phase for sure. It's got to be close, right? It's probably going to jump up now. Yep. And oh, we're just taking it really slowly and carefully. I like it. So you want to be careful not to commit to wall jumps here if you're playing it safely, because, like, let's say you just wall jump off this platform. If you wall jump off this platform at this moment, then your movement is locked directly toward the light beam. So that's why you kind of want to avoid wall jumps if you're playing safe here. Just kind of like rhythmically double jump up. And one strat people use here is luring the orbs off screen, as I've mentioned so many times before. About an Epic Games pop-up in the corner. Oops. But he's actually not using that strat. Ooh, scary. It's actually pretty ballsy to just use spells like this, but he has to use spells. Like, he can't just rely on nail damage like the P5 AB run would. He has to use those spells for DPS. So, like, the spells can sometimes be strong, but he has no choice but to use them even in places where it's really scary to do so, like in that spot. That's at the very end of the run, and he could lose the run to that easily. Really, really awesome run, though. That was awesome to watch. That was so good. I just want to give a huge shout out to the Chinese Hollow Knight community. Like, they're doing some sick ass things, man. WJLFF. So I'm posting a link to his Bilibili channel, which is like the Chinese YouTube. So if you want to go there, you can watch his other videos as well as this one. If you can figure out how to make a Billy account, you can even leave him a nice comment. But he gave me permission to react to this video, and that's like super kind, so I really appreciate that. But it's just such a pleasure to watch these videos. Even like, you know, this run is kind of similar thematically to like the Pantheon 5 All Bindings video, but it's definitely really different in practice, just because of the playstyle differences that you need to adopt. And I think this run is like even harder than P5 All Bindings Hitless. So it's cool to see that advancement. Like, people are still getting more and more crazy with these runs. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video and that you have a great day. Peace.